again, hello. There's one more certificate to give out. Certificate of recognition, back to the Future Music Cornerstone. A broadcaster, writer, and publisher with numerous accolades to his name. Essex University Alumnus of the Year Award in 2008. A music journalist for publications including NME, Melody Maker, Time Out, Echoes, and arts editor of The Voice, where he met Kennedy. He co-founded the publishing company Express Books, which published Yardie, Babyfather, and many other titles, some of which have been turned into films and TV dramas. He is the author of Can I Have My Balls Back, Please? And more recently released Effries. This recipient also launched Britain's first general interest black internet television station, colourtelly.tv, and is a much-loved late-night presenter on BBC Radio London and BBC Radio 5 Live. It was on BBC Radio London where he invited President to submit a feature called Back to the Future. The final Cornerstone Award is presented to Dotun Adebayo.
So put your feet up, it's going to take a while. I can't thank you all enough for coming here. I think this event is much greater than the sum of its parts, because the concept is absolutely right. There are so many people in the music business that don't get recognized, that should be recognized. And they're the people with talent. Music is about art, and everybody who makes music is an artist, a true artist. I'll be the second person to quote Bob Marley tonight, but Bob Marley said, I can look into the eye of any musician and tell you if they're a real artist. You mentioned my book, Can I Have My Balls Back, which was swiftly followed by Sperm Bandits. But actually, it wasn't until 20 years after that, when I published what was to be my memoirs, Effries, that came out last November, that I realized what it meant to be an artist. I wouldn't call myself that, but I know that in writing, I was challenged to a level that I'd never experienced before. My wife is an artist, as some of you will know. She's a true artist. And, you know, married to a true artist, you always feel slightly underperforming. And she didn't want me to write a book called Effries about when I was arrested for murder. She didn't want me to write that. She said, can't you write something nice and sweet? And I thought, well, I've written that before, but this time I'd forgotten about being arrested for murder, because it was a while ago, and it's not the kind of thing that you share with people in polite company. So for many years I'd forgotten about it, and during the pandemic, as I was building by myself a concrete structure at the bottom of my garden, the penny fell out of the sky like a light bulb moment, and I ran into the house and I said to my missus, Carol, I figured it out. I know what I'm going to write about, because a lot of people had been saying to me, write about your life, because my mentor was Peter Tosh. Peter Tosh, when I was 17 years old, saw something in me that he said, Ute, come, you know, do you want to go to the next gig we've got with us? And I was like, yeah. Peter Tosh took care of me. And then when I was about 18 or 19, I flew into Heathrow Airport from wherever, and the customs guys said, right, or passport control, follow me, we're going to give you what is a dehumanizing personal inspection. And I said, well, why me? And they said, well, we caught Peter Tosh the other day, and I never got round to telling Peter that he had made my life difficult in many ways, because, you know, he passed away, sadly. But what I wanted to say, and I apologize for breathing deeply, because it wasn't until you mentioned Essex University that I realised, oh my goodness, this is me, because like everybody else, Mr. President there had told me that I was here for other reasons. But yeah, so the penny dropped out of the sky, and I ran into the house and said, look, Carol, I think I know what I'm going to write about. People had been asking me to write my life story, and I didn't think that wasn't me. I'd published so many books, and I'm like, no, I wasn't really feeling it. But this time there was something, call it a muse or whatever it is, that gripped me. And I knew what I was going to call it, because what we went through, my generation, and I know there are youngers here, and it broke my heart to hear somebody say a moment ago that the youngers say, what have you lot done? Because actually, what we did was fight the good fight to make sure that the youngers today don't have to fight that fight. Yeah. Thank you. But I promise you I won't be long, I promise you. But it's an important point that I want to make. We were fighting the good fight, and whilst we were fighting the good fight, we were being distracted from what we should have been doing. You know, my white counterparts, they didn't have to fight racism. They didn't have to deal with the police on a daily basis. They didn't have to deal with the racist school teachers that I had to deal with. They didn't have to deal with any of that. So on top of the stress of living, we had this added thing thrown onto us, which was called racism. And of course, our parents never knew what it was, because they came from countries where they didn't know what racism was. So they arrived here, and they arrived with not an ignorance, but with a certain naivety, because they thought, you can't be really saying that. I brought you here to study, and you're telling me the teachers at school are racist. I was at school with Winston Silcott. I know that story. And quite apart from Winston Silcott, I was at school with 2 different people in the same class who murdered people and did time for it. But my story is of a different murder that I got dragged into, that I got sucked into, as you can do. That's the backdrop to it. I'm not here trying to say to anybody, read the book or anything. I want to explain about artistry. I want to say to all the musicians here, I get it. I didn't always get it. I didn't always get it. When I was the music editor of the Voice newspaper, I didn't get it. And when a cocky young teenager came up to me and said, yeah, man, you know, you need somebody to be writing your reggae, I didn't get it, because I thought, I'm a reggae writer, what can you bring to the table? But he was, well, infectious. He was infectious. Paulette's already said just how the young man that we're talking about owns the room. And I couldn't get rid of him. Because he might not remember this, but you know, I went off to the States to be best friends with Dr. Dre. I came back, he's still there. And I'm like, what's going on? And then I moved to the BBC and he's still there. And it does actually take, as well as being blessed with artistry or assuming artistry, learning it, it does take the resilience that I've seen this young man and his good lady. I call her Izzy, but I'm learning today she is the first lady, and why not? It's important. But it takes a kind of resilience. Izzy as well is a writer of children's books. Now I remember when she first came up to me and said, look, I'm thinking of doing some children's books. I'm like, go on, yeah. And she's done several now, so what can we say but that she has artistry as well? I beg you, my final point, all of you artists, not least Winston Reedy, who I'm sitting next to there, not least the great Alan Weeks, who's right there in front of us. These are all legends, and I'm sorry that I'm just naming the men. If, you know, the women also count in this context. I would say equally so. I would say equally so, yeah, but maybe more so. Is that you? No, not you, Paulette, the woman behind you. No, Evadne, don't hide. Is that you? Evadne was my producer for BBC and a legend in her own right. But for all of you artists, know one thing. It's not because you are great that people ignore you. It's not because you are brilliant that you haven't had your dues. It's because we are here to support you. That's your calling. Whether you get Grammys or you don't get Grammys, it's not because of anything that you lack that you don't get that. No, stay strong, please. I say it to my wife every day, and she needs as much encouragement as everybody else, because artists feel a little bit unworthy. No, you're not unworthy. As everybody said, you are the soundtrack to our lives. You are the poets of our generation. We couldn't be here today without you. Thank you.